and welcome to this revision cast, which will be a worked response for paper 2, question 2. So we've got the question, summarize the differences and how the two sources portray the problems they face with their accommodations. Accommodations here meaning their sleeping arrangements, their bedrooms. So when I read this question, I want to highlight what I think the important parts are, and that would be problems as well as accommodations. Problems, because I'm going to be looking just for things that are negative about them, and accommodations, because I can't find any problem. I need to find a problem that has to do with where they're sleeping. So let's go through. Source A, London Labour and the London Poor by Henry Mayhew, 1851. Lodging houses were provided for homeless people in Victorian Britain. Here the journalist Henry Mayhew records one man's description of them. In the room where I slept, which was like a barn in size, the tiles were off the roof, and as there was no ceiling, I could see the blue sky from where I lay. For the bed with the view of the blue sky, I paid 3d. If it rained, there was no shelter. Okay, so let's find problems here. I would say there was no ceiling. Definitely feels like a problem to me. As well as I could see the blue sky from where I lay, so those feel like a problem to me. Same with if it rained, there was no shelter. Now, 3d in 1851, that would be, well, from back then, a penny's worth about £4 today, so that'd be like £12 today, so could be expensive. Not really sure if that counts a problem. I don't know what a room should cost in 1851, so I have to leave that one empty. I have slept in a room in Brick Lane, Whitechapel, in which there were 14 beds. Okay, so first of all, feels like the area is a little bit crowded. That could be a problem too. And the next bed to me, on one side were a man, his wife, and 3 children, and a man on his wife on the other. All the beds were occupied, single men being mixed with married couples. The question is never asked when a man and woman go to a lodging house if they are man and wife. Now this feels like he could be saying it's a problem. People in the 1800s might have found it very troubling to have mixed genders like that. But I'm not feeling 100% confident, perhaps, on my knowledge of the 19th century gender norms, so I'm going to leave that. However, I can definitely say that in the next bed, being a man, a wife, and 3 children, with each bed having so many people, that can also be a very clear problem. All must pay before they go to bed or be turned into the street. That, again, could be a problem. You have to pay or you're chucked out. But then again, modern hotels work like that, and we don't really consider that to be shocking. So I'm not sure if I'd feel 100% comfortable highlighting that. I might do if I can think of something very strong to say about it. But I think there might be better things to find. Okay. These beds were made, as all the low lodging house beds are, of the worst cotton stuffed in coarse, strong canvas. Okay. So we've got what it's made out of, and that doesn't sound like it's very comfortable. The worst cotton, coarse canvas. Doesn't sound very comfortable. There's a pair of sheets, a blanket, and a rug. I have known the bedding to be unchanged for 3 months, but that is not general. So doesn't happen to everyone, but still unchanged for 3 months. It is dirty. Dirt is the rule with them, and cleanliness the exception. They are all infested with vermin. Excellent again. They are very, very dirty. I have never met with an exception. No one is required to wash before going to bed in any of these places, except at a very few, where a very dirty fellow would not be admitted. Unless he has been walking on a wet day without shoes or stockings, and then he must bathe his feet. Okay, so that is again talking about how dirty it is. And we've already got a quote for that. So problems we've got here are it's exposed, it's crowded, it's poor conditions, uncomfortable, and filthy, very dirty. And I might make notes of that down here for myself. Exposed to rain, overcrowded, uncomfortable, and dirty. Source B. The Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Killed by Bill Bryson, 2006. The writer Bill Bryson remembers staying at his grandparents' house as a child. So here I'm going to read, and I'm looking for problems as well. I'm especially going to look for problems that are different to the problems in source A. The sleeping porch was a slightly rickety, loosely enclosed porch on the back of the house that was only notionally separate from the outside world. So here we're seeing a problem. It's loosely enclosed, only notionally separate, not really separate from the outside world. So I would say this one here shows us that it is exposed. That is a problem we've already seen in here. So I'm just going to go back and I am going to say that actually that is maybe not a great problem to do, because that is a problem that's in both of them. I need to find different problems. It contained an ancient sagging bed my grandfather slept in the summer when the house was too warm. Ancient sagging bed. Sagging means like falling down. And I'm going to say that's not a great one to write about either, because that is talking about how uncomfortable it is. We've already said that it's uncomfortable, so we don't want to talk about that problem. Sometimes in winter, when the house was full of guests, it was used, too. The only heat in the sleeping porch was that of any human who happened to be out there. It couldn't have been more than 1 or 2 degrees warmer than the world outside, and the outside was perishing. Okay, now here we've got a problem that we didn't see below that. And the problem is that it is cold in there. In source A, he never really talks about it being very cold. He says it's exposed, but he doesn't say it's cold. Here, he's talking about how cold it is. So to sleep on the sleeping porch required preparation. First, you put on long underwear, pajamas, jeans, sweatshirt, grandfather's old cardigan, 2 pairs of wool socks on your feet and on your hands, and a hat with the earflaps tied beneath the chin. Again, more evidence talking about how cold it is. Then you climbed into bed and were immediately covered with a dozen blankets, 3 horse blankets, all the household overcoats, a canvas tarpaulin, and a piece of old carpet. I'm not sure they didn't lay an old wardrobe on top of that just to hold everything down. It was like sleeping under a dead horse. For the first minute or so, it was unimaginably cold, shockingly cold. But gradually, your body heat seeped in, and you became warm and happy in a way you would not have believed possible only a minute or two before. It was bliss. Bliss. Very, very happy. Okay. So for A, problems that we came across, it was overcrowded and dirty. These are not problems we see in B. Whereas for B, we really just see that it's cold. There's nothing about it being dirty, and it's not overcrowded. It's just him. Now, my answer format is going to be PEE. I'm going to write point, evidence, explanation paragraphs. In source A, the topic. In this case, the topic is the problems they face with accommodations. And I say what the general point they make are. I give an example and say what it suggests. Then I do the same thing for source B, showing a difference. give an example, and say what it suggests. So, let's write my answer here. Put in a bigger font. In source A, the main problems the writer faces have to do with overcrowding and dirt. For example, we see that, let's find a good quote for overcrowding. I think there are 14 beds in a room, and that a man, his wife, and 3 children are sharing a room. What does that imply about the accommodations with the bedroom? Well, this suggests to me that the owners do not care about the comfort of the occupants and are just trying to make as much money as possible. Now, I also said they have a problem with dirt, and if I talk about something in my point, I do have to back it up with evidence, and I do have to explain it. So, additionally, we see that, what's a good quote here? Dirt is the rule with them, and the bedding is unchanged for 3 months. Dirt is them. Dirt is the rule with them, with who? Dirt is the rule with beds, and the bedding is sometimes unchanged for 3 months. What does this suggest? Well, again, it suggests the owners don't care about the comfort of the occupants again. So I'm going to say this again shows us that the owners care little about their guests and are merely only exploiting them. So that is my paragraph for source A. For source B, I need to do the same thing, but find differences. However, in source B, the writer faces problems. The writer does not complain about overcrowding or dirt. Instead, the writer complains about the cold. There is my point. Now, I've got a couple sentences of transition here to make it clear that I'm changing to talk about the other subject. And now I've got my point. The writer complains about dirt. And I've got a lot I could pick here. I'm going to say this bit here. The writer tells us it was shockingly cold, and then with this huge list of items. So it gives us an enormous list of blankets and clothing he wears to be warm. Got a few of the good ones. Pajamas, horse blankets, didn't quote it, but I like it. Blankets. Bathrobe, I like too. And many more. This suggests, I want to think, say like this suggests it was really cold and he was freezing. But that's just simple and doesn't really show a good difference with my inferences here. Up here, I said it implies that the owners don't care about the comfort. and are exploiting him. But here, the owners, the grandparents, well, it looks like they're doing their best by him, like they really are trying. So this suggests that even though the conditions are extremely unpleasant because of the weather, I'll say environment, the owners of the house, his grandparents might fit better in brackets there, are going to a great deal of effort to make him as comfortable as possible. So then I've got a good paragraph for source B. I say what the problem is, I give evidence, and I say what it implies and find a difference in that. Now, I'm not sure that this difference is clear yet. I mean, yes, there is a difference, and yes, that is an implicit difference, but I don't feel comfortable it's clear yet, so I might add an extra sentence at the bottom just to make it very, very, very clear what the difference is. Difference that while both accommodations have, misspelled accommodations, thank you, Google. While both accommodations difficulties exposure in source A, the owners do not care about the guests, but in source B, the owners are doing their best to make things more, or use comfortable, say more tolerable. And let's just shrink that down a little bit so we can put it all on one page. And there is my response.